Welcome everyone to the Business Growth Podcast. Today I'm here with Sam from ProACT Partnership. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hi, thanks, Leonard. Thanks for inviting me today.
No worries. Looking forward to having a good chat. So to kick things off, tell us a little bit about more like what you guys do at ProACT Partnership.
ProACT Partnership is a business that started in the UK, Briley Hill, but it's expanded and divided and subdivided. And we basically offer expatriate services for family and business living and working abroad. For various connections with my family and circumstance. Um, we chose to open an EU office, not in Portugal or Greece or France, but in Cyprus.
Mhm.
So this has been our European office for 20 years. And uh, for better or for worse, I spend most of my time living and working abroad in the Cyprus office at the moment. So it's an EU-based service for those, but we're right on the doorstep of the Middle East, God forbid. And but we love our clients there, as well as very active UK office as well.
Yeah.
But we've got clients all around the world
Mhm.
and staff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And what would you kind of say is like the main work you do for your clients, like specifically?
Um, we are a consulting business
Mhm.
and an advice business.
Yeah.
So there's somewhere in between, so we're not uh, in detail big projects, but it's when somebody wants a residency abroad or
Okay.
a tax residency, which is something that's completely separate, or
Mhm.
anything in between. So that the residency permits, tax registration, but that
Mhm.
can be for as an individual, for a family, for a business.
Yeah.
But then it moves on because you then need medical cover. You've got pensions which can be stayed behind. So how do you sort those out? So we have an investment consultant that works with us as well. And obviously there's a difference between an individual, have they got an earned income, pension income, or they're self-employed, or they're contractor,
Yeah.
or the flavour of the last 5 years is working remotely, and being a tax resident in one country while
Yeah.
working for an employer in another.
Hmm. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I lived quite a bit abroad as well for the past few years and at different taxes in different countries. So would you say that's kind of the main reason someone usually comes to you guys? It's kind of like, hey, I have this really big tax bill. Where else can I live to pay less tax? Or that is, would you say that's kind of like the main?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say people are driven by their family first, what their
Okay.
situation is. So we get younger people now that they've got this flexibility, which
Hmm.
has arisen over the last 5, 10 years, where they
Yeah.
can work remotely. And
Hmm.
it started with the COVID when we all had to work from home, but then people
Hmm.
discovered they can work from
Yeah.
home. Well, you can work around the corner, you can work in the same town, but you can actually work across border now if you've got the internet connection. Um, I'm really sad because when I started working, I would even commute 100 miles a day into London to work,
Hmm.
and drive home in the evening.
Yeah.
That's how bad people used to be and sit in the traffic. You don't need to do that anymore. So it's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
We all like the idea of going to work for 8 hours a day. But if you've got an hour commuting either way, then
Hmm.
it's half your day gone. So if you're working from home and working remotely, then your
Hmm.
productive time only needs to be 6 hours a day maximum to get a full day's worth of work for
Hmm.
your employer and for yourself and for your family. So it's that drive about lifestyle which is the
Hmm.
big thing over the last 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. That used to be me as well at the fancy corporate job and commuting an hour each way. So I know the pain. And then so what's kind of like the main projects you guys are working on at the moment?
There's an ongoing movement that's been a sort of progressive thing over the last 10 years where um, they're trying to standardize, and governments are trying to catch up with information exchange between themselves. And governments are learning this, and international standards are learning this. So on the one hand, there's a minimum tax regime that's trying to be enforced around the world, where a tax compliant country has a minimum corporation tax of 15%. That there are some that don't offer that service, but then they have to exchange the information. If you've got an offshore company, if your personal service company is based in another jurisdiction, there's a tax compliance on that. So that's
Yeah.
one issue. And but working remotely is also an attractive regime. So, for example, 5 years ago, to live or work in the Middle East, you had to have a job, and you had to then get a work permit and a license to live and work in that country. You couldn't get an entry visa before you had the employer's work all sorted out. But now that's liberalizing to a degree, and there's instances where people can live in the Middle East as a resident now, and enjoy the low taxes there. But then, how does that comply with your work, or with your investment, or your personal tax compliance?
Yeah. Okay. So keeping up with like the changing regulations in terms of tax and your employers, and also where you're based.
Yeah, but also your assets as well.
Mm.
So um, and in tax,
Hmm.
without getting too technical, there are entities, who is being taxed. So we are taxed as individuals. If you start a business, you're taxed as a sole trader. But if you own a property, the property is a tax entity in its own right. The
Hmm.
company can then be a separate tax entity in its own right.
Hmm.
If you own
Yeah.
a trust or an investment, they're separate tax entities. So as you then start moving abroad, it's not just your individual self, but your
Hmm.
property, your
Yeah.
pensions, your investments. Each of
Hmm.
them can be left behind, and suddenly you've got a business in California, a family home in London, and and you've got children in Australia, and Europe, and
Yeah.
what's the implication for that when you've got
Mm.
employees in the Philippines, or um, a home back in South Africa? What's a
Yeah.
tax implication for where you are?
Hmm.
And this is the ongoing progressive thing that we've seen.
Mm.
Um, and anyway, there are two big factors going on at the moment.
Hmm.
Uh, One is Mr. Trump, President Trump, um, challenging what he's doing, and the other one is the EU slowly getting there, trying to unify the EU and the residency for people with an EU
Hmm.
connection.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff. Yeah. I remember, yeah, like I said, when I was traveling, that was a big thing for me as well. Like, where am I a tax resident, where the company is set up, all that kind of stuff. And it gets, yeah, pretty complex. And then do you have any other kind of projects that you guys are working on as a business?
Um, yes, a million. But I think that the big thing at the moment is the beneficial ownership rules that are changing,
Hmm.
and this is the thing. So if you go back 10 years ago, you could have a a Belize company, a Caribbean company,
Mm.
zero tax, and you could be quite discreet about moving around. But
Mm.
when you're traveling into a country now, it's logged. There's a big thing in the UK about ID cards at the moment. ID cards are fairly common around the world,
Hmm.
but and the EU, but they're not like a comprehensive thing. And But the ID card, it is the missing link for a government. So when they've got an ID card, it allows the government to be able to exchange all the relevant information for that. So when you cross a border, they're doing a
Mhm.
facial scan, a retina scan, a fingerprint scan. They know who's crossed that border.
Mhm.
So that information gets exchanged with the tax office, which is part of the government. They
Mhm.
know where you are. So it's important in the result, whether it's your
Mhm.
business, whether it's your investments, whether it's your property, or
Yeah.
whether it's your uh, individual self, that you put the right information on the tax records and don't leave
Yeah.
it to come back to you up to 12 years later. So with
Mhm.
the UBO, that the ultimate beneficial owner, this is the big thing spreading around the world at the moment. And it's a register so that it's not just the shareholders listed at the company registrar in any country. The beneficial owner of that can do that. So you
Mhm.
can't have a nominee lawyer or accountant in a faraway place
Mhm.
acting for you to hide you from the potential tax liabilities of owning that property or business or investment abroad. Um, the consultant, the tax consultant, the lawyer, the investment advisor, the accountant has to declare in the register on the land registry, the company registry, wherever the ownership is, who the beneficial owner of that company, that
Mhm.
property, that investment, or that business are. And,
Mhm.
and that's the big challenge, getting those records up to date. And of course, the
Yeah.
government will charge you money for it. And it then links in the beneficial owner to your ID, to your tax
Mhm.
number, to your passport, and,
Mhm.
um, and do that. So it's keeping those records and get those up to date
Mhm.
into the 25th century, sorry, into 2025, 21st century, and away from, the noughties. Even from 2015, things have moved on an awful lot.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then so what would you say is kind of like the main changes that you're seeing in the industry, aside from obviously all the regulation changes that you're seeing? What other changes are you seeing for you, like as a business owner? Maybe as an example, like are you seeing AI is having a big impact? What other changes are you seeing as a business owner?
As a business, the biggest thing for us now it's the same thing. It's the remote working because my business is like any other business. People don't
Mm,
want to work from the office if they can use their time more effectively.
mm,
Um, so it's managing those resources. Um, it's something of we made that finally made the leap this year as a business, and me personally is
mm,
that we'd say we'd have a Cyprus office and we've got a UK office and we've got an online team, and you know running three offices, and we've taken the intellectual decision that that's not the case anymore. We run one team, one business, one group of people. We're not all in the same place at the same time, but we all work together. So, in effect, it doesn't matter whether you've got 10 people in the same room or 20 people around the world, you
mm,
still have to work in the same way. And that's the ultimate commitment to complete online compatibility for that. So that's
mm,
the thing that we've said is that if you can't use technology, if you can't work online, then you can't work. In the
mm.
old days, um, uh, 10 people in an office, it's 1 minute to shout across the room and say, can you do this? Can you do that?
Yeah.
That's not effective, certainly in my business, in an international business. You need
Mm,
to be able to have the flexibility that people can do that by jumping on a quick call together, um, uh, whether you use WhatsApp to call people or a Google Chat to call people or Apple FaceTime, whatever you use, you need to be able to speak to them straight away, get face to face, and deal with it.
mm,
Maybe in 2D, because you're looking at a screen, but
Mm,
it's like that. We don't want the expense or the complication of people traveling into one location to work. I'd rather people take a bit of time off for themselves during the day, but get the
mhm,
work done productively. So
mhm,
that's the biggest intellectual change, principle change that we made this year. That
mhm,
we are one group people, but we're all
mhm.
working online, whether in the Philippines, the UK,
Yeah.
or Europe.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I imagine just trying to manage all the different time zones and knowing, yeah, when people start, when people finish is also a challenge.
Uh, I'd say no. Okay. Now, I had a wonderful client who
Hmm.
phoned me up 5 minutes after we finished yesterday. Okay.
Hmm.
Too late, we finished. So, we don't work 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
We're very, very clear on that. So we have got
Hmm.
our time zone. So we have public working hours. We have 10 hours a day, and
Hmm.
we have different people coming in during those times. So some people might work just a 4 hour shift in that 10 hour period. Other people might work um, an 8 hour shift during that period.
Yeah.
Me as a boss, obviously, I work a 10 hour shift during that period
Hmm.
because that's what bosses do.
Yeah.
Um, we have our time zone. It doesn't suit everybody, but the way we work it, which is effectively 6 o'clock UK time till 4 o'clock UK time, that centers around our business, and it works for Europe 1 hour
Yeah.
ahead. It works for the Middle East 2 or 3 hours ahead,
Mhm.
and but we can still fit in people in Australia or California or New York as well.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And then have you found AI to have like a big impact in terms of like how you guys do things?
Yes, we love AI. One of our recruits this year, Maria,
Hmm.
is getting to grips with the job very quickly.
Uh-huh.
She's our AI assistant. Okay, so we're trialing a new type of uh, uh, software for communications and client services, and we think it's a bit next level. So we can do messaging on it, um, uh, but we can also do calls out and
Mhm.
calls in. But the
Yeah.
beauty of it, instead of having, if I have an office phone in London, that's great, and somebody's not available, they can either put the call through across border, to another location, or I can get an email message to call the person back within a couple of days.
Okay.
Very efficient system, works very well.
Yeah.
In our European office in Cyprus, if the office phone is not answered, the call gets redirected to London. So
Yeah.
I've got that overseas expense that I'm paying for there.
Mm.
So the new phone system is designed that um, it's based upon a mobile app. So everybody
Mm.
with a company mobile or a company computer can have the app and make the call from the app. So the clients all see one number that
Oh,
call.
nice.
It's a,
Mm.
it's a big issue because obviously it's a new number,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, and so we've had the same telephone numbers for Cyprus in the UK
Yeah.
for 20 years. To introduce a new number is a bit difficult, but we've got one
Mhm.
number. So it, uh, the staff don't have to use an individual
Mm.
mobile number, because
Yeah.
if we need an individual mobile to get
Uh-huh.
logged into anything these days with that number or that email, uh, if it ends up being a personal conversation because somebody's working hybrid, that's no good. That doesn't work for a business. We want to be a
Yeah.
one team. We want everybody to be using the same number. So this
Mm.
new software does that really well. It
Mm.
allows us to phone out to anybody anywhere in the world, to make a call, and it's got some connectivity with messaging and WhatsApp as well, so we can message clients. we can receive messages, but whenever the call goes out or whenever the call comes in, uh, it's all seen by the whole of the client service team. Okay.
Hmm.
But instead of the old system where if nobody's available, it takes
Hmm.
up a message, an email message, which then goes to somebody who has to log on and start processing that.
Hmm.
Um, and could take 3 days before we call the client back. Um,
Yeah.
if somebody calls back or messages in, the AI Maria picks it up and starts that process with them. Lots of
Yeah.
other client service systems around. The thing is,
Hmm.
what we're trying to do is have it to direct us to get the job done straight away,
Hmm.
or get them called back straight away from somebody in the client service team, whether that's the person doing the late shift because they're in uh, uh, Australia or the Philippines, or whether it's people doing the early shifts because they're in the
Hmm.
UK.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, and then I imagine it'll just be a lot easier with clients knowing this number is from you guys and not because people are so skeptical from any number they don't know to answer it. So yeah, I can imagine that would be pretty beneficial.
Well, no, but it's also the challenge, to have
Mm,
the same company number for like 20 years,
yeah.
religiously kept it,
Hmm.
to have to adopt to a slightly different number, it does make people skeptical, and it takes time for them to get
Oh
it
yeah.
into the thing. So it's a new beginning as well. So
Yeah.
it is a big challenge. So adopting the AI and
Mm,
the virtual office service with messaging and call
mm,
facilities in and out, where the whole group can be involved in that space. It's great, but it's also a big challenge. It's like
mm,
moving office and having to get everybody working and learning and understanding, not just the
mm.
staff, but the clients as well, and selling that idea and getting that into your contact number, because of course
Yeah.
people want to, it's a strange number. They don't answer it sometimes.
Yeah.
What can we
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And then so like typically I find businesses go through kind of like there's like two key phases. There's the more growth where they're just looking to get even more clients and get bigger, or there's the more they've got too many clients and they're looking to make things more efficient kind of thing. Which kind of like the phases would you say like your business is in?
That's a good question. I really like that question. Best question so far. We've had a phenomenal, uh, uh, strong growth this year,
Hmm.
in terms of what we're doing.
Mm.
But we're still, on the other hand, the big one of the biggest challenges that we've got is we have got a lot of clients that we need to look after. Um, we've got clients that have been with us for 20 years that we're dealing with,
Yeah.
sometimes on a daily basis.
Mm.
We've got these really good new clients that we're bringing on as well, and it's
Uh-huh.
about adopting them into the system and appointing the responsible people to engage with those people. Um,
Hmm.
in the UK,
Hmm.
um, and other jurisdictions like the United States, everything is online. The government's online, and it's very, very easy to get things done and get things submitted.
Hmm.
Albeit the UK are going through a big update in their digital processes at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, when we're in Cyprus, we've got the EU bringing around their bureaucratic changes, but Cyprus is still very much growing as a developing economy.
Hmm.
So it's gone from um, a tourist location to a business center over the last 20 years. And
Mm.
you the best way I could describe it is that, um, and, and this is not a criticism, but for some of the government processes we do in Cyprus, we cannot go into an office to speak to somebody. We cannot fill in a form online, but we have to submit it online. And the online process is that we
Mm.
have to download the form. print it, write it out and fill it out in blue ink, or type it out in blue ink.
Yeah.
Cyprus won't accept black ink; they want blue ink on everything. And then when we've done that, we then have to scan it back up as a PDF, and then email that into the department, and that is submitting it online.
Yeah.
Now
So,
that is quite 2000s. That's quite the noughties, isn't it? That's
yeah.
like, but for a government system that's progressing rapidly, it's a big step. You know that they're saying to the, you know, their government officers, no, we're not taking walk-in inquiries. We're not taking people queuing at our door. Everything's got to be done online, but it
Yeah.
still takes years for the system to be gradually updated, bit by bit, year by year. Whether it's the
Yeah.
UK, Cyprus,
Mm.
Portugal, every country every year is evolving, and then the politicians come along and change the rules as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that must be, yeah, pretty time consuming writing writing everything out.
No, it's the challenge.
Mm.
It's the challenge, and you know, you can have challenges in 2025, 2020, 2015. There's always something comes along. You know, we had
Mm.
the people reference back to the financial crash in 2019,
Mm.
2013. You know, and then we had COVID. You know, so there's always something, and
Yeah.
it's all about you beginning and you know, staying on your toes. If you don't constantly change and you don't challenge yourself, you'll stand still, and you're standing still, you're going backwards. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, if you turn up to a meeting on time, you're late.
Mm.
If you turn up a minute early, you're on time. Okay,
Yeah.
it's the same with change. If you keep things as they are, you're going
Mm.
backwards. You've got to move
Yeah.
forwards. You've got to adopt the new technologies, which is why we throw in this challenge of getting everybody trained up on this technology, which is very new and
Hmm.
buggy, but you know, means we can recruit AI Maria to help
Mm.
us move forward
Yeah.
and you know, get a quicker turnover of business. And if we don't
Mm.
do that as an accounting and tax reporting system, technology will take over from that anyway. I mean,
Hmm.
you asked me earlier, you know, what's you know, the challenges, but what's the threat? You know, the threat is that accounting software today can reconcile the banks. You look at Revolut Bank. I don't know if you're aware of that
Yeah, I
down
know
where you
them.
are.
Yeah.
You know, they've been fighting for the banking license, having started off as a crypto currency exchange business 10 years ago. They've got the banking license. They've got the head office in the City of London.
Hmm.
Very, very forward-looking, dynamic business. You know, and they're challenging the whole of the banking system
Mm. Yeah.
to move forward, which it is. But integration of finance and accounts and what have you, and tax reporting, you know, you know, we don't need to spend time on that going forward. What we need to spend time on is advising and guiding people how to make the right reports and organise affairs in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's residency, tax,
Mm.
and then everything else to do with the property, investments, and business.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of, yeah, a common thing I see from the people I speak with. It's a lot of more going less from like the bookkeeping aspect to the more consulting kind of aspect, especially as AI takes over more of those tasks. So yeah, that's definitely a common theme I've been hearing. And then so you to summarize, you would say like for you right now, it's more to you've got a lot of clients now or clients coming in, and now it's just becoming more efficient with what you have and making a more like robust client management system.
Yes, but I'd say the main thing is to be constantly learning,
Hmm.
constantly to constantly grow. You've got to constantly learn, and it doesn't
Hmm.
matter whether you've got somebody who's been with you for 20 years
Hmm.
or 6 months. We have to learn. We have to adapt. We have to change all the time. If we stand still, we're going backwards.
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, and that's kind of what I find with business as well. Yeah, if you're not moving forward in 3 years, someone else will replace you. It's just the yeah
Exactly, exactly. We fostered quite a few business. Even if you look at the ProACT business, started off as a
Yeah.
law firm in Birmingham,
Mhm.
and it sprouted off an investment firm, an expatriate
Mhm.
services business,
Yeah.
a couple of other law firms, and
Mhm.
this is what we need to do: keep growing forward.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that that was everything I had. It's been a pleasure having you on. So where can people find you if they want to learn a little bit more about kind of like all of this and you're getting help with
Online,
Mhm.
we're around the world, but we're
Mhm.
always online. So we've got our website is proactpartnership.com.
Mhm.
It's got a broad brush of stuff. We do blogs and insights as well, and commentary
Mhm.
on circumstances, affecting that. Um, you know, we do come out of the UK, so it's very like UK, European, Cyprus perspective. But you know, we we're speaking to people in Hong Kong, Australia,
Mhm.
um, and Asia, Africa, and Middle East and
Mhm.
America all the time. So we've got wonderful clients in Guadeloupe, which is a great place to be as an expat at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, a, a, a client I had in on Monday was families in Angola and Australia, and somebody in Hong Kong but wants to get back into the UK, and it's a really really interesting time. So
Yeah.
stuff.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, and I'll put a link of that below on the kind of show notes, and I'll make sure to tag you on LinkedIn as well. So if anyone wants to reach out to you. Otherwise, you guys have been listening to the Business Growth Podcast. Until next time, keep building.